Hey guys, so this is the reading of your News ELA School Starts Later for day 7. I'm going to read through the article and then read through the quiz for you. Hopefully you are using this to your advantage as a modification. I would suggest having the video over here, like a split screen, have the video over here, and then your quiz over on the other side. So that way, when we do get to the quiz, you have me reading those questions out loud for you. It might help, it might not. It's a good tool for you to use, so really use it to your advantage, okay? So this article is about schools in Seattle, Washington, actually starting school a little bit later. So it's middle school and high school, so it kind of is the same age range for you guys. So this is an interesting read, okay? So follow along on the screen while I read for you, and hopefully you guys do well on the quiz that comes along with it. So Seattle, Washington. Starting school a little bit later is helping high schoolers in Seattle, Washington. This is according to a new study. Scientists there are studying later school start times. Teenagers wore activity monitors to find out whether a later start to the school day would help them get more sleep. It did, adding 34 minutes of slumber a night. They also reported less daytime sleepiness. Students' grades also improved. Later starts to help teens get more sleep. The Seattle School District changed from a 7:50 start time to an 8:45 in the fall of 2016 for high schools and most middle schools. Some other U.S. school districts have also adapted their starts to help sleep-starved teens. Teenagers' nightly sleep has decreased across the country. Most young adults don't get the recommended 9 hours of sleep a night. One reason is light from devices that many teens use. The light from the phones keeps them awake as they chat, post, and scroll long after dark. Franklin High School senior Hazel Ostrowski took part in the study. She said sleeping later makes it easier to pay attention during class. Still, she struggles sometimes. I'll wake up so tired I wish I could go back to sleep. At night, I'll be on my phone and I just want to stay up, she said. We'll scroll down a little bit. Monitors track activity and light exposure. Researchers worked with science teachers at 2 high schools. They wanted to find out if students got more sleep after the change, or did they just stay up later. Over 2 years, they gathered 178 sophomores, which wore wrist-like watch, like monitors, for 2 weeks to track activity and light exposure. Results were published December 12th in the journal Science Advances. The scientists examined sleep habits of sophomores in spring 2016. Before the change, they compared them to the sleep habits of sophomores from spring 2017 when began. Some measures held steady. Naps and weekend sleeping schedules didn't change. On school nights, only a few students stayed up later, not enough to greatly change the average. Average sleep length increased. What changed was wake-up time. With morning activity starting about 45 minutes later on the school days, combined with a slight shift of later bedtimes for a few, the average sleep length increased by 34 minutes. Put another way, morning wake-up time shifted from 4 a.m. to 7:08 a.m. Falling asleep shifted only a bit from 11:27 p.m. to 11:38 p.m. Given all the pressures keeping our teenagers awake in the evening, screen time, social media, this is a great thing to see, said Horatio de la Iglesia. He's a University of Washington biology major who led the study. Biology is the study of living things and how they work. Lower income students were less tardy after changes. Researchers also analyzed school-wide data on classes that happened at the beginning of the day. They tracked who was on time and who attended classes. Of the 2 high schools, the one in a wealthier area showed little difference year to year. However, the school in the lower income area had less tardies after the changes. It also had fewer absences after the change. Later start times could help with learning gaps between higher and lower income students, the researchers said. Exam scores and other grades in the science classes increased year to year by a small amount. However, the authors acknowledged the grades could have changed for another reason. Teachers may have liked the later start time too. Perhaps because of this, they gave better grades to students without realizing it. Most U.S. middle and high schools start before 8:30. That goes against the American Academy of Pediatrics health recommendation, said the University of Minnesota researcher Kayla Wallstrom. She studies the issue. School districts resist, she said, because later start times disturb bus schedules and sport practices. Parents often want older kids to be as babysitters. Later start times means there are fewer babysitters in the afternoons for younger kids. Prior studies asked students to recall how much they slept. This study had a stronger form of measurement. The wristwatch monitor, it was the largest study to use that kind of measurement, she said. Bringing the research into classrooms made it a learning experience for students. Wallstrom said, this was a brilliant way to do it. So that is your reading. Now we're going to go to your quiz. Okay. Number 1. Remember, if I'm going too quick, you can always pause this video, answer your question, and then push play again, so that way it's not going too fast for you. Okay. Number 1, read the section, quote, later starts to help teens get more sleep, end quote. Which selection from the section suggests that teens are more inclined to be sleepy in the morning than at night? So what statement explains or suggests that teens are more inclined to be sleepy in the morning than they are at nighttime? A, the Seattle School District changed from 7:50 a.m. start time to 8:45 in the fall of 2016 for high schools and most middle schools. B, some other U.S. school districts have also adapted later starts to help sleep-deprived teens. C, Franklin High School senior Hazel Ostrowski took part in the study. She said that sleeping later makes it easier to pay attention during class. Or D, I'll wake up so tired I wish I can go back to sleep. At night I'll be on the phone and I just want to stay up, she said. Number 2. Read the section, lower income students were less tardy after changes. Which paragraph from the section best supports the conclusion that many schools are unwilling to adopt later start time? So best supports the conclusion that many schools are unwilling, so they do not want to adapt to the later start time, okay? Think of tone in the paragraph. So is it A, exam scores and other grades in the science classes increased year to year by a small amount. However, the authors acknowledge that grades could have changed for another reason. Teachers may have liked the later start time too, perhaps because of this, they gave better grades to the students without knowing it. B, most U.S. middle school and high schools start before 8:30 a.m. That goes against an American Academy of Pediatrics health recommendation, said University of Minnesota researchers Kayla Wallstrom. She studies the issue. C, school districts resist, she said, because later start times disturb bus schedules and sports practices. Parents also often want older kids as babysitters. Later start time means there are fewer babysitters in the afternoons for younger kids. Or D, prior studies asked students to recall how much they slept. This study had a strong form of measurement. The wristwatch monitor, it was the largest study to use that kind of measurement, she said. So which one best supports the conclusion that the schools are not willing, they do not want to adopt the later start time? And that was a long one, so just take your time on that one. Number 3, which answer choice accurately characterizes Horacio de la Iglesia's reaction to the results of the study on later start times? Go back into the reading and figure out what accurately categorizes his reaction. So is it A, disappointed that teens could not start going to bed earlier? B, excited that teens could be more likely to get to school on time. C, confused that teens were spending so much time in front of their screens. Or D, pleased that teens were able to get an additional 34 minutes of sleep. And last one, which selection from the article best introduces the challenges that teens face in getting enough sleep? Best introduces the challenges. That's the most important part of that sentence, question. Is it A, most young adults don't get the recommended 9 hours of sleep at night? One reason is light from devices that many teens use. B, researchers work with science teachers at 2 high schools. They wanted to find out if students got more sleep after the change. C, over the years, they gathered 178 sophomores. Each wore wristwatch-like monitors for 2 weeks to track activity and light exposure. Or D, naps and weekend sleep schedules didn't change. On school nights, only a few students stayed up later, not enough to greatly change the average. So which selection from the article best introduces the challenges that teens face in getting enough sleep? Okay, so that is your quiz that goes along with the article. Hopefully you guys were able to use it, use this video in helping you answer those questions. If you have any issues or you need some clarification on anything, make sure you comment on this video, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.